narrowly defeated, but he had to give up what he had tried to have for so long. And knowing Joe Biden, though, he finds a way to make himself right with his own decisions, for better or worse. He's pardoned his family members today. He is a person of very devout faith, and I think he clears his own conscience to his own satisfaction. I think he's at peace, is what I'm saying, with this moment and with the long career that he gave to this country.
Byron Pitts, I know you're watching along with us, Nightline anchor Byron Pitts.
David, to pick up on Terry's thought, I look at this image and I think of the book of Ecclesiastes. There's a time for all seasons. This image reminds us the political season for Joe Biden is over, and there's a new season for Donald Trump. We're also reminded today, David, that elections have consequences. President Trump's speech, for many, was filled with hope. For others, it was filled with hammers. For Americans who believe that we should be colorblind, this is a good day. For Americans who believe America should be color brave, a difficult day. And David, during his speech, President Trump acknowledged Martin Luther King, who would be 96 years old today. And I think Dr. King is speaking to us on this day. In his final book, Where Do We Go From Here?, Dr. King wrote, "Not bad, huh? We will err and falter as we climb the mountain's familiar slopes and steep peaks, but there is no alternative. There will be agonizing setbacks along the way with creative advances. Our consolation is no one can know true taste of victory if he has never swallowed defeat." I think what Dr. King was telling us then is that in America, there are days in which you win, there are days in which you lose. But the arc of America, which embraces all of us, is always moving forward, is always moving higher.
Byron Pitts with us as well as we watched what was Marine One, renamed now since Joe Biden is no longer the president, former President Joe Biden and Joe Biden leave the Capitol. That was the pool shot that they provide, and I gather they've now moved on from that pool shot, Mark? And now I would, as tradition has it now, Ronald Reagan had famously asked for one last look around for the White House. Nancy Reagan famously wrote in her memoir that he leaned over and said, "There's our little bungalow." So you just have to wonder, Lindsay, if they're going to take one last trip.
And now we have this shot again. And to your point, David, wondering, and we may never know, the potential relief that he feels on this day. This is a guy who in recent years has had to be so careful of every step, literally and figuratively, as people wondered if he'd trip up the steps, going aboard Air Force One. This is somebody who's been dogged now, at least for the last year, about his mental fitness and his capacity to be able to run this nation. And so you'd imagine there's a bittersweet sense, perhaps more bitter than sweet, though, for Joe Biden today.
Yeah, difficult to leave Washington knowing that he was not able to get the Democrats over the finish line for a second term, whether he could serve the entire 4 years of that term or not. He has said in recent days that he wished that he had communicated his achievements in a way that the American people would have received. And he took the blame for that, for not communicating that better. He does hand over to the incoming President Trump, an economy that is rebounding. Inflation has come down, though the American people still feel higher prices, and that is a very real thing. Stock market having a very good year, and it'll be on Donald Trump now to keep that going. He stepped in 6 months before the election on the border, and many, even within the Democratic Party, say, had we just done that sooner, perhaps part of the equation would have been different heading into that campaign season. And of course, the very big question here is just age itself. Sometimes you can't outrun age, and that was on full display, Mary Bruce, in that first debate. President Biden, the outgoing former President Biden, I guess we have to get used to saying, talked about how he wasn't feeling well that night. He had a cold, but we also know that age catches up to you in what is a very stressful job in the White House. We also know that Donald Trump now enters the White House slightly older than what Joe Biden was when he arrived at the White House.
Yeah, and that inevitable march of time is something that none of us can beat, despite Joe Biden and his campaign's best efforts. It does appear, I think, based on my knowledge of Washington geography, that he is making that flyover there of the White House. Yeah.
And the Capitol.
And the Capitol,
where
yes.
he spent so much of his career.
And I was going to say, it is remarkable when you think about, his more than 50 years in public service, more than 3 decades in his beloved Senate. You could argue that he always considered himself a senator first. He also spent over 3 decades trying to get to the White House. To only spend one term there has got to be something he grapples with. He has argued in recent days, as you noted, that so many of his accomplishments may not be felt by the American people just yet, but he said he's planted the seeds, mentioning the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And he really did leave with that parting message about the need for Americans to protect American democracy, arguing that it's now in Americans' hands, that his legacy and his work, that it is up to Americans to carry that forward, because he, of course, is not getting the opportunity to finish the job. That was his campaign slogan. And of course, neither is Kamala Harris. But as he makes that flyover, you have to wonder if the Washington that he devoted his life to, if he feels like he no longer recognizes.
Let's go to Kira Phillips. Mary Bruce, thank you. Kira, you're in the overflow room. I know where the incoming President Trump, has now arrived. What do you see? What do you hear?
That is right. Well, people are starting to cheer right now. You can see there the Speaker of the House as the President of the United States is working his way down the steps right now. The First Lady by his side. You think of this presidential inauguration, David, it's here come the cheers. It's a rite of passage. It's about a peaceful transfer of power. And what a stark difference compared to 4 years ago here in this building. It's very quiet right now as they're working their way down the steps. But I can tell you, 4 years ago, he was denying the election results. There was an insurrection. And now you have a peaceful transfer of power where his fans and supporters are here shouting USA. It's gone quiet once again as he approaches the stage. I had a chance to meet with him recently. We spent more than an hour together. Much of what we heard in that inauguration speech is what he told me, that he was going to move at lightning speed. And lightning speed is what we are seeing. Biden set a record on his first day. David.
He's been wanting to ban it for a while. Nah, he found out that he's
talking about 200 executive orders,
I don't know what he
border,
found
mass
out, but he knew
deportations,
that
reinstating travel bans,
China had a
reversing
mission
Biden's
to
climate policies. The Vice
to mess with
President
our
now
minds.
of the United States speaking.
stupid.
Let's
They had
listen
to
in.
make us stupid.
Not today.
That was a good way to start it off. I didn't know exactly what the president would put in that speech, and I hoped to myself that he wasn't going to hold back. And sir, you didn't hold back. That was a hell of a way to start the next 4 years. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and I know I speak for the president and for all of us, thank you for making this possible. We love you. We wouldn't be here without you, and we're going to make America great again together for the next 4 years.
Bruh, I got business. Help me be great. Help me be great.
And the last thing I'll say is, having stood outside for about 5 minutes to wave goodbye to the Bidens, thank God we moved that thing indoors, because it was a beautiful ceremony and it was cold as hell outside. So, sir, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Stop coughing, I can't hear.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Look at this beautiful sunny day.
Okay.
We blew it. And then I went outside and we were freezing. You would have been very unhappy. The sun was very deceptive, I will tell you. It is cold out. And I'm sort of saying, that was so beautiful today. Maybe they should do it there every 4 years. Does that make sense? I don't know. Because, the outdoor thing is really good, but it gets a little cold around this time of the year. Some people have noticed. And a lot of times they suffer through it. There was no suffering in that room. It was 72 degrees. It was perfect with the best acoustics I think I've ever heard in a room. This is not so bad either. But I just want to say You're a younger, far more beautiful audience that I just spoke to. And I want to keep it off the record. I want to keep that off the record because I don't want to have all those big shots up there. I don't want to think you're more powerful than them. You look better than them, and I love you. We just had a great time. We just had a great day. This was amazing. You know, when you think we took a journey, I mentioned in the speech, a lot of people said that was not a journey that was possible, and it was indeed possible. I didn't really know too much about what they were saying when they said that, but a lot of people felt it. And we hooked up with JD very early. I watched JD over a period of time. I endorsed him in Ohio. He was a great senator, and very, very smart. The only one smarter than him was his wife. That was I would have chosen her, but somehow the line of succession didn't work that way, right? But now she's great and he's great. This is a great, beautiful couple, and
I wouldn't have
unbelievable
chosen her.
career. I just said to him, "You are very upwardly mobile."
Did he just
He
say to
hasn't
that
been doing
lady?
it that long, but he
Did
picked
you
it up
just say, "I
so
wouldn't have
quickly.
chosen
Remember, the first week was a little bit like the fake news was hitting him really hard. And I said, "Oh, this may be tough," but after that, it was smooth sailing for him. He took on everybody. He took on the meanest. I
You
don't
just
want to
said
use the word
fam.
corrupt because we're into a new system, so let's wait till the corruption begins, because it will. But he took on some pretty mean people, and he handled it well. I want to also congratulate Mike Johnson for the job that he's doing. See, we gave him a majority of almost nothing. And then I said to make it tougher on him, let me take 2 or 3 of the people, right? I said, he'll only have to suffer with that for about 3 months. How are they doing, by the way? Are they, is that moving along? I said, do you mind if I take this one, that one, and a couple of others? He didn't mind. He could handle it. No, he's a man that's liked by everybody. I've never met a man like this. You've got how many is it, 219 or 220 or something? 220. And of the 220, 219 really like him. I noticed he got one negative vote once about 2 weeks ago. But I think even 220 like him, if you want to know the truth. And that's very unusual. I know a lot of nice guys in Congress, and they have 35 people that hate them. So if you have 35 people that hate you and you only have 1 or 2 or 3 votes, you'll have 5, I think. But that's going to be like, the good news is when we get to that 5 number, it's going to feel like a massive majority. You can be really nasty to a couple of them at least. So it's going to feel like hitting your head on the wall and stopping. It feels so good to stop. But he's done a fantastic job. And Steve Scalise is, he's our hero because, I was with him. You talk about being shot. I was with him. He got some bad ones, and his incredible wife, and she really loves him. You never know about that. I've been with other people that were doing poorly, and the wife is like looking at her watch. She can't get out of the hospital fast enough. Mm-hmm. How's he doing? I don't know. It's all right. That woman was a mess. She was crying and crying. No, they're going to take him. They're going to take him. I told Steve when he finally woke up, it was a while too. The doctor told me it was the most blood they've ever transfused in any patient. They've never done anything like it. And here he is, the picture of strength, right? And he's been a great friend of mine. Because of a family. And what a job you did. It worked out pretty much better than we even thought, right? And I did have a couple of things to say that were extremely controversial. And between JD and Melania and anybody else that heard, please, sir, it's such a beautiful unifying speech. Please, sir, don't say these things. I said, I'm telling you, it's going to play great. They say, you're right. For this group of people, it's going to play great. You're the only ones I hurt by not telling, but we had some beauties, didn't we, Melania? She said, sir, calls me sir when she's angry. No, I'm only kidding. I better say I'm only kidding, or the press is going to pick that one up loud and clear. No, but she said, no, I think it's really terrible. It's such a nice speech. I think it's, it all depends on your delivery. How was the delivery? Was it good? But she said it's such a beautiful speech. You can't put things in there that you were going to put in. And I was going to talk about the J6 hostages, but you'll be happy because, you know, it's action, not words that count. And you're going to see a lot of action on the J6 hostages. See a lot of action. And I was going to talk about the things that Joe did today with the pardons of people that were very, very guilty of very bad crimes, like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs, where they literally, I mean, what they did is they destroyed and deleted all of the information, all of the hearings, practically not a thing left. They deleted all the information on Nancy Pelosi having turned down the offer of 10,000 soldiers. You wouldn't have needed 10,000. You could have had 500 and it would have stopped. Because we had 1 million people that day, the people that were there. You don't see any photographs, but we have a lot of great photos. You don't see those photographs. They don't put them in to show the people at the Capitol. But I was talking about that. I was going to talk about that. They said, please don't bring that up right now. You can bring it up tomorrow. I said, how about now in front of I'll bring it up right now. You know, and this little time delay is good because we're getting great reviews on the speech. Now watch. They'll take the speech and say, I didn't like it because he left there and he talked to people. But we're giving you a little more information than we gave him. Says, no. They pardoned a lot of people. They pardoned, before we even get to today, they pardoned, 33 murderers, absolute murderers, the worst murderers. You know, when you get the death sentence in the United States, you have to be bad because they don't give it much. And he pardoned almost everybody having a death sentence. And if you went through the crimes that were committed, you wouldn't even believe them, the level of violence. The people that were killed, the innocence of people that were killed and children killed by these people, and he pardoned them for whatever reason. He spared them, and but they didn't spare the people that they killed. And you know, who knows what happens in the future? It's one of the worst because a lot of times they let them out early after that. You know, they say you're going to be in for life, but then all of a sudden they get let out for good behavior, and then they go on a rampage. It's one of those little things, right? But I was going to talk about that. But I was really going to talk about the level of, you know, what's going on. Why are we doing this? Why are we trying to help a guy like Milley? Why are we doing Milley? He was pardoned. What he said, terrible what he said. Why are we helping some of the people? Why are we helping Liz Cheney? I mean, Liz Cheney is a disaster. She's a crying lunatic and crying Adam Kinzinger. He's a super crying. I never saw the guy not crying. He's always crying. I looked at him. I remember years ago he was actually on my side.
His wife is now with
And then one day, you know, when you don't want to kill people in wars, they turn against you. Liz Cheney hated the concept of not going to war with everybody. Let's kill everybody. Let's spend a lot of money on military equipment, you know, where her father works, right? And but what she did was incredible. Think of it. They destroyed and deleted all of that information that went on for almost 2 years against Trump. And the reason they did, because it was all false. Like the person that said, I tried to strangle a Secret Service agent. That's one of the toughest human beings I think I've ever seen. I actually had a friend say, please don't change that, sir. You are the coolest sucker in history. Remember, she said, I put my hands around his neck because he wouldn't go to the Capitol. Made up fiction. And I was rebuffed. And the guy on the right is a massive weightlifter, probably stronger than me. Do you think he's stronger than me, honey? You know who I'm talking? Possibly stronger than me. Slightly younger than me. Like, I won't say how many years because I don't want to talk about that, but a lot of years. But I had a friend that said, why are you disputing that story? That's the coolest story I've ever heard. That I would attack a karate champion, get slightly rebuffed, and then throw my arms around a guy with a neck about this big. Even though there are bars, you can't really do that anyway. So I wanted to talk about that. But all of that stuff got deleted. And the reason it got deleted is that we're all caught in lies. You know, Secret Service testified and they said it didn't happen. Actually, the two guys were very embarrassed. They're suffering because their friends are saying, did Trump really do that to you? But they gained a whole new respect for me. But it was just make-believe stuff. And there were a lot of make-believe stories made up. So rather than suffer the wrath, like the story with Nancy Pelosi, I offered her 10,000 soldiers. She knows it. She admitted it on tape that her daughter made. She's a videographer or whatever you call her, which I'm glad she is. So she can't be in good stead with Nancy. But Nancy said it was my responsibility as she's leaving the Capitol. She said it was, and it was. She's in charge of security at the Capitol. But I offered them up to 10,000 soldiers, even more. One time I said more, as many as you need, but you needed 400 or 500. If 4 or 5, you 10,000, that would be more than the number of people there by a lot. But we offered her 10,000. Think of it, 10,000 soldiers. In other words, J6 wouldn't be J6. There would have been no J6. But she rebuffed them. She didn't like it. No, she didn't like it. Maybe she wanted that to happen, but she's guilty as hell. And now we would have to go through the process because they destroyed all evidence. They deleted everything. There's virtually nothing left. The other fake story and so many other fake stories. And many people came out on our side. And those people now, we've got to find them. There's nothing left. So that's a criminal offense. If that were a civil case, it would be a criminal offense. If that happened civilly where you did that, it would be a criminal offense. So I decided I'm not going to make this speech complicated. I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it a unifying speech. And then when they said we have a group of people that are serious Trump fans, I said, this is the time to tell those stories. Yes. So I do that. But I think it was a tremendous success. I think we're very lucky we put it inside because it is really cold. We just went to the helicopter out of respect for something that's taken place for a long time. I guess it's as old as helicopters. We used to get into a stagecoach and get into the helicopter. Times change. But it's pretty old custom. And it's a beautiful custom, actually. It's a beautiful custom. I wish we could have had a better relationship. I wish we could have had a better relationship between Republicans and Democrats. I was with Senator Schumer. I said, Chuck, I think it's time we all start getting along a little bit because it doesn't make sense. I mean, we literally never get a Democrat vote. They never get a Republican vote, almost. And although there is a bill coming up very shortly that we have a lot of Democrat votes, right? It's going to be a very beautiful bill. We're going to have a deciding, I would say, within a week or so, I think. And it's going to be a very good bill. You all know what I'm talking about. So I just want to thank you all for being here. You have been our fans from day one. All these people all over. You've been our fans. This has been there's never been anything like it. There's never been anything like it. This has been a movement like no movement ever in history for probably any country, let alone this country. You know, if somebody's running for president, and if they go out and they announce they're going to Arizona, they're going to Nevada, they're going to someplace, if you have 200 or 300 people, that would be standard. Ronald Reagan would go out. I mean, outside of the last couple of days where people get a little excited, but even then you have a couple of thousand people. But if you're going to go someplace, any one of the swing states, any one of the other states, I mean, how about the non-swing states? We won Alabama by 48 points. We won Tennessee by massive numbers. Wyoming, we won by numbers that are, nobody's ever seen numbers. And, you know, places like California, we did great, but when they send out like 38 million ballots, nobody knows where the hell they're sending them, and then they come pouring back the whole thing. You know, they passed a law in California that if you work in an election bureau, and if you so much as ask for a voter ID, if you say, sir, ma'am, could I please look at your voter ID? You have the right to put you in jail. You're a criminal. Can you believe that? There's only one reason that happens. They want to cheat. So they had it where voter ID wasn't accepted. But now if you even ask for, this is seriously a bill that was just signed, passed in their legislature, and it was signed. And I think when we get things cleaned up and we get back to a little bit of normalcy, I'm going to ask the speaker to really get involved, because I think we would have won the state of California, because, you know, if you look at my numbers with Hispanic, we're 56%, and we won the Texas border that had never been won. As the governor said, he's doing a good job, the governor, by the way, of Texas. But as the governor said, it hasn't. Oh, did I get lucky? Did I get lucky? Supposing I said, you know, he's not here, but the governor of Texas has done a terrible job. Wow, look at you. You mean we couldn't get you up in the front row? I tell you. Supposing I said, JD, the governor of Texas is not doing his job. You heard what I said? See, I didn't know you were there. I said he's doing a great job. He's doing a phenomenal job. But now you're going to have a partner that's going to work with you, because you didn't have. Not only did he have a partner, he had people selling the wall. Right? We have a fence structure that we worked on, the governor worked on with me. And I didn't love it, to be honest with you. I wanted a nice precast concrete, you know, 40, 50 feet high, like a beautiful, could have been a T-shape, Y-shape. I love construction. I wanted that sucker to go up maybe 50, 60 feet. It would have looked beautiful, a nice Y shape. And they said, the problem is, sir, they climbed that like a rabbit. I said, what do you mean? No way. And they brought some of these guys out. They climbed it like, and the other thing is you hit it with acid and the thing will disintegrate. You know, they have things for concrete. So they needed very hardened steel, very special steel. And then they needed 7,000-pound concrete inside that steel, inside that steel. And then they have a rebar that's the toughest steel made. Very hard to cut. So this is why very little is cut. Right. And then they put a anti-climb paddle on top. I hated it. I said, it's so unattractive. And I said, why would that work? I don't believe it works. And I went to watch the Border Patrol, gave a display. We had actually two sets of climbers. The guys that climb up walls with drugs on their back, I mean, they got like 60, 70 pounds of drug, and they go as fast as you can walk. They go, bip, bip, bip. Or we have Mount Everest type climbers. And honestly, the drug guys were much better. I couldn't find. The drug guys blew them away, right? But it's true, the anti-climb paddle, they couldn't get around it. They just couldn't. You didn't have it. So sometimes you sacrifice beauty for efficiency. And we did. So we built this wall, and we built over 500 miles of wall. That's why we had such good numbers. The famous chart that came down, very thankfully, the chart that came down on my right, Governor. Had I not looked over there, I'm not speaking right now. You might be speaking there. You want to know the truth?
Yes.
You, JD, we've got a lot of great people in this party, but I got very lucky, but we had the best numbers we've ever had. But I bought, you know, what happens is when you fill it up, it's like water. You fill it up. Now we have 571 miles of wall. And they would always say, you know, when we renovated a wall, so there'd be like a piece of plywood sitting there for 60 years, or a 2x4 sitting for 60 years on the ground and rotting. Because, you know, and they'll say, you didn't build a new wall. Here we're building 50 feet up in the air and 30 feet sections, 50-foot sections, all steel, all concrete, all everything. And all, by the way, they don't even want me to say this, but what the hell, doesn't take that long time. They're all wired for all of the equipment. We put wires in everything so they can easily wire for all the different types of equipment. And if there's a doubt, we have a wire. Whenever we just look, you just find the wires all over the place up top, so we can just hook it up. We don't have to have wires on the outside, which wouldn't do too well, right? So anyway, so we built an extra 200 miles of wall, and the governor wanted to buy it. He tried to buy it, and they wouldn't sell it to him. He wanted to put it up himself. Could have been done in 3 to 4 weeks, 200 more miles, because when you do it now, they just keep going further out, getting around. So we did an extra 200 miles, and it was all bought. And they announced that they're not going to put it up. And that's when I realized they wanted open borders. And that's when I realized that people are going to come pouring through the wall like nobody's ever seen before. But you've seen it. A lot of you are here because of that. I made it my number one issue. They all said inflation was the number one issue. I said I disagree. I think people coming into our country from prisons and from mental institutions is a bigger issue for the people that I know. And I made it my number one. I talked about inflation too, but you know, how many times can you say that an apple has doubled in cost? I'd say it and I'd hit it hard, but then I go back to the fact that we don't want criminals coming into our country. We don't want the jails of every country in the world virtually being deposited into the United States. And that man had to suffer with it. And he did an unbelievable job. I'll tell you, he was a very popular governor, but now he's like an unbeatable governor because of your border policies. He was fantastic. And he really was. So, Governor Abbott he's a great man, great leader. And, but it did make him did you do it? You didn't do that for politics. You did it because you wanted to do the right thing. But I'll tell you, it sure as hell worked for politics too. It's self-preservation, that's right. But no, because the people are demanding it. The people of Texas are demanding it. The people are demanding it all over. So anyway, so we built it, and they wouldn't let us use it. They wouldn't let the governor use it, and other governors, they wouldn't let him use it. But he was the leader of the pack and did a great job. And then we heard about a month ago that not only wouldn't they let us use it, they were selling it. They were going to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. Now, 5 cents on the dollar then, but today it would cost more than twice as much to go because we bought it like 6 years ago. And it was just sitting on the ground, and that does not do well for the whole thing. But it was just sitting on the ground, and I heard about it, and I called the governor, and I called a lot of people, your attorney general. And here's the story. They were going to buy it, and these are great business people. They were going to buy it for 5 cents on the dollar or less. And they were calling us up, we'll sell it to you for 200 cents on the dollar. In other words, it will cost you twice as much, so it's 200 cents on the dollar. I said, can someone explain that to a judge? I mean, how corrupt is that? You'd think they'd say, maybe we'll sell it to you for 20 cents, 30 cents, but not 200 cents. So they were going to buy something for 5 cents, and they were going to sell it to us for a fortune. They're going to make it they'd have it down that in Fortune magazine, they'd put it as the deal of the year, okay? You buy something like that. But it was so corrupt and so horrible. And when we told that to the administration, they didn't care. They just kept going forward. They couldn't care less. And they kept going forward. They knew that they were trying to sell it back to us. They would have sold it back to us. You would have ended up buying it. You would have paid probably 50, 60 cents, who knows. But they would use it for scrap metal, but then they made a much better deal. They could just buy it and sell it to us for 15, 20 times what they paid. 20 times, think of it, like 20 times what they paid. And we wouldn't let it happen. And the governor with his attorney general, Ken Paxton, they made a fantastic, they're a good lawyer. He's pushing around pretty good by people, right? I said, you got a great attorney general. They should leave him alone. He was with me. But Ken and the governor went to court, and a judge actually became incensed and actually called for an investigation. How could a thing like this happen? So he stopped it. So we're waiting to put that wall up. And now that you have a new president, that wall will go up so fast. The governor will complain, sir. This is Greg Abbott, sir. Please, the wall is going up too fast. Please don't do that. You know the story about winning. No, we're going to win too much. We're winning too much. Please, stop. People always love that one. We'll do this with the wall. Governor Abbott calls, sir, the wall is going up too fast. We can't take it. We just can't take it. No, I think you'll be very happy if the wall goes up too fast, right? But we'll get that dude and we'll work with you on that. But it was a great decision by a great Texas judge, right? And it was beautiful to watch. He stopped them right in their track. I mean, they were literally loading the stuff onto trucks. It was terrible. Honestly, it was terrible. And he wouldn't take it. So I'm so glad I mentioned that they have a really good governor in Texas. And I swear I didn't know he was here. I swear to you, it sounds like a setup. I didn't know you were in. Did I get lucky? I said the right thing. Because there have been moments when I wasn't so happy with him, you know? But not too many, I can tell you that. So anyway, it's good to see you too, Governor. Great. But I just want to thank everybody. You've been incredible. I recognize
All
some
the
of
way.
you. It's so crazy. But this has been a long journey. This was a journey that started in 2015, probably started 20 years before that. People used to say, you're going to run for president? You're going to run? And I always said, no, I don't want. And then one day I said, let's give it a shot. And what I talked about then was the border too. I think it probably was the number one issue for me. Back in 2015, 2016, I talked about the border. And now I talked about the border, but this border is much worse. We fixed the border, it was totally fixed. There was nothing to talk about. 2020, by the way, that election was totally rigged, but that's okay. It was a rigged election. You know, the only thing good about it, it showed how bad they are, showed how incompetent, and frankly, historically, this is a much bigger event. If that would have gone like it should have, the bad thing about it is some bad things happen, like a lot of people in our country that wouldn't be in our country right now. So you know, that's the bad part. But I will say that it started in 2015, and right from the beginning, we went to the top. Day one, they announced Trump, and Trump went to number one and stayed there for the whole primary. And then we took on Hillary. She didn't look too happy today. We took on Hillary, a very nice person, but we took on Hillary and we defeated Hillary, and then we did much better the second time in 2020. You know, we got millions more votes. We got millions, like 10, 12 million more votes than we did the first time. No president has ever gotten that many more votes. I got like 9 million more than anybody else had ever gotten. And they said we lost. And because of that, I said to Melania, what do you think? And she said, you want to do this again? And had we lost, and had I felt we lost, I wouldn't do it again, because that's like the ultimate poll, right? But I knew how well we did. And this time we made it too big to rig. It was so big. They tried. They tried like
You
that.
gotta come into the community. You gotta come hang out with us a little
They tried to do
She's like,
it. And now I know
no.
too, they gave up. Last time they did bad things. This time they just said,
Oh,
yes.
baby.
You know, I don't know if you saw Mr. Speaker in Washington. They had placards. They were all set to march. They thought it'd be closer. A gentleman asked me, a very respected gentleman asked me yesterday, how come the polls were so low? They showed you winning, but not in a landslide. I said, because people that are true Trumpers are so angry at the whole polling system and at the writers, the fake news, that they don't want to talk to anybody. So when you call somebody from Trump, who are you voting for? They say, it's none of your business. I'm not telling you. And that was probably 40% of the people they called. So they would discard that one, and they didn't show that. And then when the election happened, you know, the vote came, and it was much different, much higher than we're going to win. But they really thought, they couldn't believe the one man said, I mean, it was so much higher. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by millions of votes, which is hard for a Republican. I'll tell you who came through. The unions came through. The auto workers were great. The Teamsters were great. The firemen were great. I think almost every union was great. The only one that weren't great, although Sean was great, and the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, was fantastic. But generally speaking, the head of the union was against Trump, but the union would be with us for like 85%. Look what we did with the auto workers in Michigan. Look what we did with the Teamsters. The Teamsters were unbelievable. They were a solid Democrat vote, and they voted for Trump. So we had a great experience. Now we have to go to work and get it done, because we have to do something that's going to be great. We're going to turn our country around. We're going to turn it around fast. And I think this was a better speech than the one I made upstairs, okay? I think this was better, JD. I think this was much better. And I got to see my friend. So, Governor, take care of yourself. You call me, we'll start working. You know what that means with him? He's going to be calling me tomorrow morning at about 6. And I said, how about next week? You call me, we're going to get started real fast. Really help you a lot. You've done a fantastic job protecting something. It's not supposed to be for the states. And amazing job you've done. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody. And I have a first lady who's been incredible. I shouldn't say this. I'm going to get hell when I say this, but her feet are absolutely aching. You know, those heels. And we thought we were leaving. We were going home. Sir, would you be able to go down and say hello to some of your other fans that are here? I said, oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Did you get to see pretty clearly the picture, I hope? Good. That's good. But because you wouldn't want to make the same speech again, right? But she said, darling, I love you so much, but my feet are killing me. I said, honey, let me just see how far does I ask the person. Oh, not that long, maybe 400 or 500 yards. That's 5 football fields.
Mama.
I said, can you make it? She said, we're going to make it no matter what. We're going to make it because we have to come.
Where's the screwdriver? So then I can put it back.
And then we went out to the helicopter that just part of this and said goodbye. And it's a
You're asking
custom, and the wind is blowing like crazy. And with the hat that she's wearing, she almost blew away. We almost lost her. She was being elevated off the ground. She almost blew away. No. So we all appreciate it because you've been a great first lady, a beautiful and a great first lady. And they love our first lady. You know, JD, whenever I make a speech, I see hundreds of times, we love our first lady. And they do, and they should. She's great. So I just want to thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to thank everybody. And I felt that I said to JD, should we give him the A treatment, the B treatment, the C, the D, or the F? You know what the F is? Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye. I gave you the A+ treatment. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Governor. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
President Trump, now having delivered his inaugural address and his second speech here, unscripted, he tells the crowd listening there, his supporters, that he believes this was the far better speech of the two. And in fact, you're looking at a split screen right now. Formerly Air Force One, now just the plane taking former President Joe Biden from Washington. He's just departed from Air Base Andrews, where he gave a speech, and we'll bring that to you at just moments from now. President Trump telling the crowd, you are a younger, far more beautiful audience than the one I just spoke to, referencing the people who were in the rotunda with him, the fellow leaders and former presidents and first ladies, to laughter in the room there. Talked about many of his familiar themes from the campaign trail, and in fact from the first presidency and even the campaign leading into the first presidency. Talked about his plans moving forward, and including the border, which he said still was the biggest issue of this election. He said inflation was big, but he believed that the border was the biggest issue. I do want to bring in Catherine Falders from our investigative team and our political team, because Catherine has some reporting that we want to get on the air with involving the border. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about January 6th, Catherine. And you heard him reference there the pardons, some of the pardons that came from the outgoing president, but then hinting at the action he'll be taking later today. And you've learned more about what that action will actually be.
Yeah, David, and I should caution that, of course, this isn't final until Trump signs the paperwork. But we're learning from multiple sources that these pardons, that these January 6 defendants' pardons will be much more sweeping in nature than some of his allies even predicted. We're told that he will extend pardons to these January 6 defendants. But in addition to that, we're told that Trump plans to commute the sentences of those who are in prison now for those violent offenses on those police officers. Now, what does that mean? That means hundreds of individuals who are currently serving time for attacks on police officers, their sentences will be commuted. Now, He hasn't signed this yet, but he is intending to, and that's what's anticipated. But the other thing worth noting here is this will extend, David, to two of those most high-profile defendants that we've talked a lot about on January 6th, the Oath Keepers founder, Stuart Rhodes, the Proud Boys leader, Enrique Tarrio. They're both serving 18 years and 22 years, respectively, for, of course, leading members of their respective groups in a seditious conspiracy to thwart the lawful transfer of power. Those two individuals we could see out of jail as soon as today. I'm told that Trump will also direct his attorney general to drop those pending cases. There are 300 cases where defendants have been charged but not found guilty or convicted or pled guilty in any way. Roughly 180 of those 300 pending charges, David, were charged with assaulting or impeding police. So essentially, this will affect every single one of the January 6th defendants. There are 1,600 of them, so they should be getting that news soon. Of course, I should caution, nothing is final until Trump signs the pardon paperwork, but he's expected to do that today.
Why is she saying call?
Again, the significant caveat to the reporting that Catherine Faulders is bringing to us at this hour is that nothing is final until President Trump signs this later today. There's still time between now and then, and all of this appears to be fluid. But Catherine, all told, about how many defendants total are we talking about?
It would affect, essentially, David, every single one of them. There's 1,600. That's the total number of January 6th defendants who will be impacted in some way. The pardons that you will see, most likely, are for those who were non-violent. But the significant part of this is those commutations for those defendants who violently assaulted police officers. That means that their sentences are over. Essentially, they will have time served in jail today. Trump is expected to sign this today, and they will be out of prison. So that, of course, is the big news there, and much further than Trump's allies thought he would go. You remember Vice President J.D. Vance said today that there wouldn't be pardons. He didn't believe for violent offenders. Of course, these aren't pardons, they're commutations, but it means that they will be out of jail, of course, if this reporting stands and Trump doesn't change his mind between now and the time that he signs this. So there's that element of it. And then, of course, all of the cases that are still pending in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office just down the street, those won't exist anymore after today.
All right, Catherine Faulders, you'll stick with us, and as soon as you learn more about when he plans to sign this, when it becomes official, if it becomes official, and we'll bring it back on. In the meantime, I want to bring in our Chief Justice Correspondent, Pierre Thomas, because Pierre, again, the caveat here is, things can still change before he signs it, but Catherine, according to her reporting, believes that his actions this afternoon could affect just about everyone, if not everyone, who was charged in connection with January 6th. And of course, as you heard Catherine say, that involves the most serious of charges, those who even were involved in conflict with officers, attacking officers up on the Capitol, and those who might have helped orchestrate what the country and the world saw play out on January 6th, that this could be sweeping in nature and affect just about everyone here.
David, here's where it's fascinating. Of the 1,500 or so people charged in connection with January 6th, a stunning 608 were charged with assaulting and resisting police. It's going to be fascinating to see exactly who would be included, because there are videos of some of these people viciously assaulting law enforcement. And I'm wondering how that's going to factor into this down the stretch of this decision, David. And we've been in conversation today, checked in with Harry Dunn, for example, David, who was very pleased about what Biden did, but was also expressing some frustration that he even had to have a preemptive pardon by Biden, because he talked about how he was fighting for democracy, trying to protect the Capitol. And there he was having to get a pardon, David.
All right, Pierre Thomas with us here as well. Pierre reacting to Catherine Faulders reporting, and as soon as that becomes official, we'll certainly report that out even further. Again, the president has gone to Emancipation Hall, and now he has left Emancipation Hall. We believe he's headed to the president's room, correct? And we will see that here shortly. We continue to await a luncheon as well, where he'll have lunch with not only Republicans, but Democrats and leaders there on the Hill. Former President Joe Biden has left Washington, and he did speak. It was a relatively short speech. Here's what he said just moments ago.
Folks, came to thank you. You know, I don't think we could have done anything. I know we couldn't have done anything we did without you. Kamala and Doug, the members of the cabinet, all the staff that's here, all across all the agencies, and friends, supporters. Jill and I are forever grateful to you. I mean that. We're genuinely grateful. As you heard me say before, no president gets to choose the moment day in their history, but they get to choose the team they did in history with. And we chose the best damn team in the world. You are. Because of you. I mean, this is from the bottom of my heart. Because of you, we got so much done for all Americans. I look down there, my Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, and she's only by his wife who works for first. Look, I only hope to look back on these years, hope you look back on them. The same pride I have of all you've done. You know, I'm proud of this, and you did it upholding the core values of honesty, decency, and integrity. I mean, no scandal. I mean, it's incredible what you did. And you represent the best of who we are as Americans. That's not a joke. That's real. I've already relied on your ideas, resolve, and counsel. We also relied on your families. To all your families, thank you for the sacrifices you made. I mean it. For being part of this journey. Every day, I'm deeply moved by all we all did for this country. I really mean it. This is going to mark down just what you did. You know, but the point I want to make today is to make clear my farewell address, as we all do have a lot more to do. We heard the inaugural address today. We got a lot more to do. I know many years' experience. They're up and down, but we have to stay with it. My dad taught me the measure of a person, you heard me say it before, is how quickly they get back up when they get knocked down. That's what we have to do right now. We've always done our best as Americans. We never give up. Never. We're leaving office. We're not leaving the fight. You're smart, you're skilled, you're passionate.
I was checking if
Country needs you again.
we're yellow or
All you can. Stay engaged in all the ways you can. Whether it's in public service, in the private sector, philanthropy, academia, running for office yourself, or anything else you choose to do. I give you my word, we believe in you. We, Jill and I, our family, believe in you. Just as I've said, how the laws we enacted our seasons are going to grow and bloom for decades to come. I say that to you as well. I have no doubt you'll make this experience and take in the friendships you made to continue to do amazing things in decades to come. That's why I see a future. All of it leading the way by you all. You know, so take some time to decompress, reconnect with your friends, spend more time with your family. But most of all, take care of yourselves and each other. I mean it. Let me close where I began with my sincere gratitude. And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. I've been doing this for 50 years. You're the best group of people I've known. It's hard to say. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. And I tell you what, the greater honor is being able to serve with all of you. You're incredible. You really are. You really are. Mark my words. This is going to judge what you've done as one of the most significant contributions that's been made by all of America. Look, folks, you know, let me close with that poem you heard me quote before. Seamus Heaney wrote, "Once in a lifetime, the long-form tidal wave of justice will rise up and open Mr. Rhyme. You made it rhyme louder than it's rhymed in a long time." I really mean it. We're on the cusp of real change, so let's make open Mr. Rhyme. I love you all. I'm keeping you too long. But thank you.
It's a Volkswagen. Falling hard with the catalytic converter.
Can I walk this way?
And it's on now.
President Biden, First Lady Jill Biden, the outgoing president and First Lady, moments ago, leaving Joint Base Andrews. You can see the plane there waiting for them. The president, former president, saying, "Stay engaged," saying, "I've been doing this for 50 years." Did say something like, "We're on the cusp of real change. Don't give up." But that's quite something to deliver to a crowd when somebody else has just been sworn in and deliver the inaugural address. And President Trump has his own plans for real change. So again, sort of a split screen moment here in Washington, and it does reflect the country. Again, sweeping mandate in the Electoral College, but still a fairly close election. Just a couple million separated Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the popular vote. And what the former president, Joe Biden, is trying to do is keep people engaged, keep the supporters engaged. You can see them now talking to some members of his own cabinet, Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Antony Blinken right there in the crowd, having just embraced the outgoing former President Joe Biden there. And John Carl, he clearly did express a little bit of, his own reaction, if you will, to what he sat through with the inaugural address just about an hour ago from former, now incoming President Trump, the 47th president of the United States.
He said the fight's not over. We still have work to do. And he made a comment, especially after hearing that speech, we've got work to do. And then he crossed himself.
Yeah, sign of the cross, right? Yeah.
Sign of the cross, as if to say he needed a little moment of prayer after hearing the first of the two speeches that Donald Trump has given so far today. David, I can only imagine his reaction to the pardons that we just heard Catherine Faulders report, the pardons and commutations for virtually everybody who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Let's face it, those prosecutions, some 1,600 cases, are a big part, or were a big part, of Joe Biden's legacy, holding people to account for attacking the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. And that legacy is now up in smoke. And as we reported here, as we first came on the air with these inaugural activities, that decision to expand the pardons and commutations, and again, they haven't been issued yet, but Catherine Faulders is reporting that they are about to be issued. They're expected to be issued. That was a change that was made since last night, and a change that I am told was made as a result of the pardons that Joe Biden issued this morning. That Donald Trump had originally planned to issue pardons for all the nonviolent offenders on January 6th. And in terms of those that had committed attacks on police officers and violence, that he was going to refer that to his Justice Department to review, as J.D. Vance had suggested about a week ago, on more of a case-by-case basis. But now you have the broadest, if he goes through with what, again, Catherine Faulders has reported, the broadest possible action he could have taken regarding those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Virtually all of them to be, if he goes through with this, free by the end of the day.
As we watch Joe Biden and Jill Biden leave Washington after Joe Biden's 50 years of public service, Terry Moran, if Catherine Faulders' reporting holds, this would be extraordinarily sweeping in nature.
Sweeping and telling about this national moment. Think of it, those two men in the Capitol today, side by side, performing the constitutionally mandated and this time peaceful transfer of power, and still fighting over the meaning of January 6th with their pardons. President Biden preemptively pardoning the members of the committee and some of the witnesses before the committee that investigated the attack on the Capitol. President Trump now pardoning, it looks like, pretty much everyone who attacked the Capitol. One of the things that was at issue in this election is, what does January 6th mean to the United States? Not just now, but in the future. That question has not been resolved. To many in the country, most Republicans on the day, it was horrifying and disgusting and a crime against our democracy. They've changed their tune. A lot of Americans still feel that way. Other Americans see it as a lot of hyped up partisan politics. How we resolve that dispute will tell us a lot about who we're going to be.
Yeah, that's true, Terry. And something we heard in traveling the country, and Martha, I know you talked about this too in covering this election, is that people would acknowledge it. They didn't like what they saw, but it wasn't their number one issue. It wasn't even near the top of the list. So whether wiping it right off the map is the answer to some of those voters or not, we'll just have to wait and see what the American people say and how they react to the news. This is the president's room, as is custom. The incoming president signing a series of binders. Let's listen.
We went to the helicopter. It was freezing. Our sun is a little deceptive. So what would you like us to do?
Official documents.
Okay, I assume they're gonna be happy with these documents.
Sir, the first is 22 cabinet and cabinet level appointments for your signature.
Okay.
The next one will be, excuse me. The next one will be 47 sub-cabinet level appointments, sir. You don't have to sign what you say. Thank you, sir. Now 31 acting designations and appointments to effectively take control of the government. That's important. We have 15 commission chairman and acting chairman. Commission chairman and acting chairman.
You just hear what he said?
Huh?
31 members. When he's talking about his appointment, he's signing in the members of the cabinet.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, we have a proclamation ordering all future inauguration days, including this inauguration day, that flags shall be flown at full mast. Very important.
It was a beautiful place to have an inauguration tonight. The sound was so good. The temperature was 72 degrees. But the sound was so good. There's something.
Yeah, that's a lot more Broadway.
Good acoustics. Yes.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Very nice. Very nice. It's a beautiful custom. It goes back as long as before that it was a stagecoach. But it was, I thought it was beautiful. Thank you. Great job. Great job.
Do you have any reactions to the pardons President Biden did in the last minute?
Well, I'm not going to discuss it now. I think it was unfortunate that he did that. We won't discuss it now. There's plenty of time to discuss it.
Thank you very much, guys.
Have a lunch.
Ready for lunch? Ready for those?
That was 3 times the number of appointments you did in 2017, sir. I'm going to just get
The president in the president's room there signing a number of pieces of paperwork that you essentially have to once you become president, and putting into motion officially your selections for your cabinet. We heard the president asked there if he was okay with that. Mary
Bye,
Bruce, our chief White
Sylvan.
House correspondent, will now cover
Hopefully he
the
does what
Trump
he says
administration,
he's gonna do.
listening in on that.
Helps people who are trying to help
He
themselves
basically looked at
without
those around him and said, "Are these papers okay?" before he signed them.
being
And then he did go ahead and
inhumane.
sign them, of course. As you
Oh,
noted,
yeah.
it's really the official paperwork that to let him take effect of the government and those cabinet appointments, making those official as well. He was, though, asked by the small